Get to know Symone Redwine. She's a successful attorney, legal correspondent, and reality star on OWN's hit dating show, Ready to Love.
Entertained by it, and that you just feel more empowered. So you don't feel like you have to be a victim of different corporate greed, if it's the airlines, or of certain predicaments or situations in your life. So yeah, it's one of the self-care things I do for myself because I enjoy it. It's fun and it's funny. And it allows me to tell potential clients when they say, I have a quick question. I can say, listen to episode 4, listen to episode 3. So yes, definitely check us out in the new year. And on iTunes, it's called Is That Legal? And you can find us on iTunes and a variety of others. But then you can also just go to my website, which is girlisthatlegal.com.
Love it. Girlisthatlegal.com. We got it. Mm-hmm. Got it. Well, I want to thank you for being my special guest today, Symone.
I loved it. Thank you. I appreciate it. And also, check me out on Instagram. I always forget.
Okay.
You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is Symone Redwine. Symone with a Y, Symone. And then you can also, if you want to chat with me more, I partnered with a company called Candy. It's called Meet Candy. And what it is, it's a company where you can video chat with celebrities and reality show people. You can video chat with us, and it's super fun, and I love meeting new friends. So you can go to meetcandy.com and put in Symone Redwine.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again. You take care, and we will see you on the gram and check out your podcast very soon. You take care, okay?
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Can't wait to share this video with you.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Mess.
Sounds like it. And then you had to be vulnerable, and then since you couldn't utilize your family, your close friends, you had to really kind of lean on each other through the process.
Yes, that definitely made it more challenging for sure.
Now, you've been incredibly brave and vulnerable in this journey. What have you taken away from it, and how will you apply it to your next chapter?
Absolutely. I've said that I really feel like after this experience, I'm going to be an even better girlfriend than I was before. Because one of the main things that I realized is, one, my instincts and my intuition are good. They're largely spot on. They're accurate about people and things and so forth. But also that I need to work on doing a better job of asking for exactly what I want in my love life. I do that for a living. I do it on my behalf and behalf of others, but I'm not so good at doing that with men, and just allowing myself to be more vulnerable with them. So those are some of my biggest takeaways.
You know what I love? I mean, the men were so different. And so I love that, in a sense, you could kind of cultivate your response to the different men you may meet in the future. I mean, we haven't seen the end of the show, so we don't know what happens, but
right.
I love that you are able to cultivate those experiences from what I see for the future. You never know who, you'll interact with.
Absolutely.
In business.
I think that's another thing that I realized is, like, my personality varies largely dependent upon my relationship with the guys. For example, like, just if I'm into a guy, they get a totally different Symone than if it's just my friend zone. So like, Edwin will have a separate opinion of me and experience of me than Rashid may have had, and things like that. And I was listening to an interview that Rashid had given, and when the interviewer was like, well, what was your experience with Symone when such and such happened? He was like, I don't have those problems with her. I guess I know how to handle her. And I was like, yes, that would be accurate.
Yes. But I mean, one thing I can say about you and Rashid, you guys have this dynamic energy, so it's like a great ball of fun. So whereas Edwin is a lot more reserved, a lot more chill, a lot more talkative, a lot more serious. So I get it, and those are both sides of you. Like when you're doing your attorney work, Spears is on fire. I'm doing what I have to do, and then you also know how to let loose and have fun and bring joy.
Exactly. Absolutely. And it's and it was funny. I talk about I've mentioned it. So Anthony, one of the guys on the show, Anthony.
I interviewed him.
You did? Oh, wonderful. Did y'all have fun?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we never really interacted at all at the mixer. And the next day, when we did interact, he was like, Symone, I have to admit, like, I really didn't take the time to meet you, but part of it was because I found out you were a lawyer, and my ex was a lawyer, and I didn't want. And I said, you know what? No hard feelings, because my ex was a ball player, so I didn't need to meet you either. I was just joking, but I think too, being an attorney with dating, whenever men have had prior negative experiences dating female lawyers, they write us all off. And I'm okay with that because I don't want to be held responsible for someone else's offenses. You're not going to put that on me. But I've realized that like when men get to know me independently, they're like, man, you're nothing like what I thought. I'm not.
So maybe the show will teach us not to judge books by their covers.
I think so too. I think that is definitely a theme that should definitely resonate through the show and through watching, you know, the different cast members. And I was a fan. I've watched all the episodes, which was part of why I wanted to do this. And one of the reasons why I really encourage people to watch Ready to Love on OWN Friday nights is because there are 20 characters. You can see yourself or portions of yourself in various characters. And whether you feel like, you know, you are dating perfectly and you have your perfect mate, then what you can see is how do different people communicate? What are some things you may be able to do better? And then also you can see, man, what does it look like out in that dating world? Like if you're like, well, maybe I want to leave the one I'm with, you might want to look at what's going on out here and be like, nah, they not that bad.
I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good.
That is so funny. As a Cornell Law School grad, woo woo, how long have you been an attorney and what or who inspired your career choice?
Absolutely. So I've been an attorney for about 13 years now. And I was inspired just as a little girl. I've always been inquisitive and loved problem solving. And it kind of started when I was little. My mom used to come in my room and it would be messy. And she said, whew, you don't have to go up and have a good job, like be a lawyer. So you don't have to clean your room. You'll be able to pay somebody. And I was like, cool, you could pay somebody to clean your room? I'm gonna be a lawyer. That's when I was like 6 or 7. And then I got older and I realized what they did. And I was like, you know what? I want to help people, but I don't want to be poor. This will be a great job for me. And so fast forward, you know, my interest in the law grew and developed. But I think what always attracted me is I like problem solving and I really enjoy storytelling. And the type of law that I practice, it allows me to tell stories for those who can't articulate their positions as well for themselves. And because at the end of the day with the law, the person who tells the better story wins. Mm-hmm.
Point blank, right?
Yeah, with the jury.
I mean, you've been an attorney for 13 years. You've helped a lot of people. What would you say are some of your proudest achievements as an attorney?
Oh, goodness. I think some of my proudest ones are the ones that have effectuated long-term change. So one example would be there's a wrongful death case that I worked on for a number of years with a particular company. And this company was making products that were monitored by the FDA, but they lied on all their FDA documentation. And ultimately, this product killed my client's child. Well, it was in school districts across America. And even after the FDA recalled it, they did not notify school districts. And children and staff continued to be burned by this equipment. And ultimately, I took all of the evidence I brought it to the FDA. This was a publicly traded multi-million-dollar company. And our evidence alone was enough to shut down the company forever.
Wow. Mm-hmm. You say
so that was
seriously
one of the proudest things. Yeah, that was one of my proudest. And of course, I do a lot of expungements and non-disclosures as well. And those are basically, it's a process in various states where you can seal your criminal record or have it erased, either or. That's very fulfilling to me as well because it gives such immediate change and happiness to my clients' lives. Within about 60 to 90 days, you know, they can reapply for a job they were rejected and they now qualify because they don't have that record that was previously visible that prevented them in the first place.
Oh, such good in the world. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. It's fulfilling. It is fulfilling. A lot of hard work, but fulfilling as well.
Now, let's talk about COVID-19. It's been so challenging for so many people in a number of ways. We're talking about financially, health-wise, and much more. Let's talk about legal solutions for everyday consumers in COVID-related conditions. I know you're getting this. I know you're hearing your clients are asking for your help in this.
Absolutely. So let's start with just day to day at work. What are some of your options at work, right? So I've had multiple people call me and say, well, my job is not providing us with PPP or PPE, the protective equipment, or they're giving it to us, but they want us to use like the same mask for an entire week and so forth. You are not forced to be in that type of working situation. And here's what's challenging. First, I'll tell you what the law says, and then we'll talk about real solutions, because you gotta, earn a living, you gotta make money. So the law says you don't have to work in a dangerous work environment. And if they want you to come to work in a COVID environment, the job is supposed to provide you with the mask and gloves and those things. If they don't, you're not required to provide it, but if you choose to provide your own, you can ask for reimbursement for things like that. Also, if they're not willing to give you those things, you can request that your job assignment be changed to something where you do not have to interface with the public. So as one example, I actually had a nurse. There was a nurse. She was pregnant. She was worried about that. They gave her a job where she basically did administrative work from home and was able to do that throughout her pregnancy. There was a cashier at a grocery store. That grocery store also needed help with stocking. So that particular cashier was able to change and be a stocker on the evening shift, basically when the grocery store was closed. So that also reduced their exposure. But you have to, the main thing I recommend is you have to put all requests in writing as much as possible, whether that's via email or text messaging. But you definitely want to put it in writing and start there. And then if they're still not willing to give you those things, the masks and things like that, at that point, you should definitely contact your local work commission and your employment commission that protects workers in your area, and it varies by name. But you want to let them know, because they can document that, and then they also sometimes have resources for employees and for small businesses, because a lot of small businesses simply, are already struggling. So when you add on the cost for these protective things, it's truly difficult for so many of them. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And then making a way for businesses to continue to thrive, but also to retain your employees too, because
exactly. Absolutely.
No one should have to come to work if they're uncomfortable. I wholeheartedly agree with that. I read a statistic that says 79 million people have been displaced due to the COVID-19 pandemic. What rights do renters have in terms of breaking their leases?
Okay. Many states and all federal housing, so Section 8 type of housing and public housing, have moratoriums on evictions. And those moratoriums go through the end of this year. Now, what a moratorium says is that while the rent and those fees are still owed, they can't file to put you out until after the 31st. Here's the challenge. Then that means all those months you weren't paying, you have one big balloon payment that you've got to come up with. So one alternative for that is, one, you can always contact your landlord and see if they'd be willing to work with you. If you have a landlord that has a mortgage, that landlord may be able to reach out to whoever their mortgage person is and find out if they can get mortgage forbearance, meaning that the months where you're living there, they don't owe their mortgage. That will likely help the landlord be a lot more flexible. And secondly, if you know that you're not able to make that lump sum payment that's going to be due when that eviction is filed, you should go ahead and work with your landlord and see if you would agree to perhaps make one payment or a portion of that payment in exchange for turning in your keys, moving out promptly, and them not putting a derogatory eviction on your record. It's a case-by-case scenario, but for a lot of landlords, getting some money rather than none, would be better. Especially, if it's a situation where the amount they're asking for is, let's say, at this point, it's been 9 months, right, for the pandemic. If it's 9 months and you don't have that, if they could get 2, it would be better than nothing. Does that make sense?
Or even if you put the person out and then now the property is vacant, you're still not getting money, so.
Exactly. So
right.
Yes, so better than nothing. And you can also get a letter from that landlord if you communicate with them, where if you need like a referral to the next one, just a letter that says, this tenant was in good standing at the time that that her lease terminated. And a simple letter like that would be very helpful, because you don't want to have to keep going back to that landlord in the future for a reference letter. It's always best to get one letter, have it dated as of the time after you left, and have that letter stand for you. Because otherwise, depending on the mood of that landlord, that reference letter could say anything. You don't want to run into that.
You mentioned forbearance if, say, the landlord has a mortgage on the property. What about a homeowner that has a single family home? Is that something that's available?
Oh, yes. Homeowners have a lot more protections and options. If you are a homeowner and you have a federally backed mortgage, so like a conventional or FHA, they are giving at least 6 months forbearance. And then at that 6-month point, if you feel that you need more, a lot of mortgage companies are then doing a month-to-month forbearance. And what they'll do there, you definitely want to confirm with your mortgage company, because your interest will still accrue, but they usually tack those months onto the end of your mortgage. I, in fact, asked for that. And they said, okay, well, you have a 30-year, so it's going to be 36. I said, well, that's fine. By 30, well, not 36, but 30 years, 6 months. And I said, well, that's fine, because I plan to pay it off by then anyway. So, and it's very good to go ahead and ask for anything you think you might need in the new year, because they're offering a lot of these programs and deferments right now through the end of the year, but they are very stringent and strict, saying that as of the new year, they're not going to be as lenient and they're not going to offer certain things. And I believe that it's likely in part because now that we've got the vaccines coming out, a lot of these companies feel that, people should be able to pull them up by the bootstraps, so to speak. And we all know that realistically, that's not so feasible for everyone.
I know that businesses are out to make money. I get it. You didn't launch a business,
right?
To hang out. But for a mortgage company, is that like public? I know it's public knowledge, but like, do they notify their customers like, hey, if you're having, for anybody out there that's having, or is it like tip top secret? Like it's like a secret.
It's one of those things. So what's funny is nowadays, you usually most people get their bills on electronically, like via email and things like that. And what I've noticed is I have not been receiving anything that has proactively offered help. A lot of it is kind of secret. You have to call in to find out about it. Or if you go to their website, they'll sometimes have a banner at the top of the website. And actually, it's often easier if they do have such a banner to use the electronic means to do it rather than calling in, because calling in these days, you can be on hold forever. And actually, one of the very little known relief options during COVID is actually for Obamacare. So many people have been complaining that Obamacare is so expensive and it's, out of reach for the average American. Well, because the current administration is not a supporter of the Affordable Care Act, they stopped advertising the fact that subsidies exist. So a lot of people don't realize all you have to do is pick up the phone, call and say, hey, I'm interested in finding out if I qualify for an Obamacare subsidy. And that you can do this even if you're already enrolled in a plan and you've been in that plan for months. Over the phone, they'll just take your financial information. And here's the key. If you've been affected by COVID, don't give them the dollar amount that you made last year. You're going to tell them the amount you have today. So if today you're collecting unemployment, you tell them the amount in unemployment that you're making monthly. If your hours have been reduced, you give them that dollar that month. I had a client that I helped to do this. They went from paying $511 per month for their Obamacare down to $140 per month with a $50 annual deductible.
Wow.
So it really, really helps. But it's a little known secret. If you don't call, you won't know, and it's not really advertised anywhere.
They don't want you to know.
Right.
It seems like a common thing. There are resources out here, and that's why I'm so glad that we're having this conversation and you're giving so much information, because I hope that this helps somebody watching
Absolutely.
To go in and procure those resources. My goodness. What about, here we go. For anyone out there who has canceled trips due to COVID, how do they leverage getting a refund for flights not taken?
Yes, absolutely. So with the airlines, their default policy is simply allowing you to change your flight. So the first thing is it depends on when you booked. So earlier in the year, let's say through March, April, May, those flights at the time that you booked them were non-refundable, right? But for example, myself, I was supposed to go to a bachelorette party to St. Martin. St. Martin closed its doors. So that flight was canceled. So you can demand a refund back to however you paid for it. So a refund back to your credit card. The way to do that, though, is you have to contact each airline. You have to say to that company specifically, I do not want a credit. I want a cash refund. And then they will tell you the process. So you are entitled to a cash refund if you booked it earlier in the year. Now, if you booked it later in the year, like more so like June and beyond, then those tickets, they specifically stated they will simply just let you rebook into next year for free without a change. So if that's the case, you can rebook in that manner. But if you're having any issues with rebooking, don't forget, you can always contact your credit card company and dispute the transaction. I actually encourage people to do that first, because what happens there is, for example, a lot of times people booked a ticket, but because so few people are now flying, the airlines decided to change their route or change the time that flight's leaving. So you call your credit card company and say, hey, I booked a flight that was supposed to leave at this time. It's no longer doing so, and they're not giving me my money back. Most credit card companies will credit you your money back and give the airline 30 days to prove that the flight was going to leave at exactly that day and time, and they can't do it. So I've received my money back for 2 flights doing that. So disputing it with your credit card is the second option. And then the third is all else fails. So if the airline isn't being receptive, if your credit card company hasn't given you your money back, you can actually go online and file a complaint with the U.S. Department of Transportation. They are actually over all of the airlines. And it's super, super important that you do that, because what happens is they keep track of all airline complaints, and airlines get penalties for not responding promptly. So by doing that, it then triggers a higher up response from the airline. So that is the third way that you can get that refund or get that flight changed without any penalties.
I wish I talked to you earlier in the year.
Yes,
I booked travel for my family for April. We had a family vacation planned, and I booked it on my rewards account. And so of course, we couldn't fly. They couldn't fly, and so I called said airline, and they were like, "We can only give you the credit." And so I was like, "It's 5 flights. Like, they're not flying." And so then I called again. I wouldn't let it go, and they were like, well, we still won't be able, what we'll do is we'll extend the credit for 2 years instead of the 1 year. And I'm like, I want the money back. So they still told me no. And so then I went back a third time to try. And then this time I explained the situation. And then they were like, the only way that we can give you the refund is if you prove in writing that your family members had COVID during the time that they were supposed to fly.
Oh, that's a lie. You should file a complaint with the Department of Transportation, girl. It is not too late. So you should absolutely do that, because no, because if they are the ones, if we have that, first of all, in April, your family very likely could have had COVID and couldn't have gotten a test. Because back then, if you weren't coughing, hacking, and so forth, or over the age of 65, it was virtually impossible to get a test. And they certainly were not giving children tests. So
my entire family had COVID. My entire immediate family had COVID in June and July. My parents, my sister, my niece, my nephew. And so, I fought it, but we ended up working it around. We moved some points around and were able to take some trips this year. So it was utilized, but this is interesting to hear. Like, there are so many things in place, but they fought me on it. Like, no. But that's okay.
And it's such a shame, because it's such bad customer service. Like, especially because they got bailout money. Like, they received a bailout, and you're still, shame on them. Shame on them.
Shame. See, you regularly offer valuable advice just like this. Tell me about your legal infotainment podcast and the type of discussion you have.
So you have to check me out on, my podcast is called, Is That Legal? And you can go to my website, which is girlisthatlegal.com. And you can listen to some of the podcast episodes. We're going to have a bunch more coming out in the new year, but it's infotainment. And by that, I mean, writers or viewers and callers write in with questions, and then we answer the questions online. But it also contains like different funny stories from my legal career of different clients, what they've gone through that was pertinent to that question. And at the end, my hope is that upon listening, you learn something different about the law, you're entertained by it, and that you just feel more empowered. So you don't feel like you have to be a victim of different corporate greed, if it's the airlines, or of certain predicaments or situations in your life. So yeah, it's one of the self-care things I do for myself because I enjoy it. It's fun and it's funny. And it allows me to tell potential clients when they say, you know, I have a quick question. I can say, listen to episode 4, listen to episode 3. So yes, definitely check us out in the new year. And on iTunes, it's called Is That Legal? And you can find us on iTunes and a variety of others. But then you can also just go to my website, which is girlisthatlegal.com.
Love it. Girlisthatlegal.com. We got it. Mm-hmm. Got it. Well, I want to thank you for being my special guest today, Symone.
I loved it. Thank you. I appreciate it. And also, check me out on Instagram. I always forget.
Okay.
You can find me on Instagram. My Instagram is Symone Redwine. Symone with a Y, Symone. And then you can also, if you want to chat with me more, I partnered with a company called Candy. It's called Meet Candy. And what it is, it's a company where you can video chat with celebrities and reality show people. You can video chat with us, and it's super fun, and I love meeting new friends. So you can go to meetcandy.com and put in Symone Redwine.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again. You take care, and we will see you on the gram and check out your podcast very soon. You take care, okay?
Thank you.